Apologies to disturb you on the weekend, but we have an emergency video about Venezuela and the things that developed there on Friday night. We're going to talk about oil. I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite oil stocks right now. We need this information now before the market opens on Monday. Let's get right into it. Welcome to Hot Trades of the Day, your show for swing trading ideas for the coming days, weeks, and month. Again, apologies to disturb you on the weekend. I know we all have better things to do, but we here at Hot Trades of the Day, we pride ourselves to not leave you alone in the markets when important things are happening. I have an extremely important development in Venezuela over the weekend. I assume you know what I'm talking about. American Special Forces basically kidnapped, you can't say it any other way, when a person gets taken against its will. They basically kidnapped the Venezuelan president and his wife on Friday night. That's the situation. Now, if you watched my prediction video on oil, I talked exactly about Venezuela in there. I highly recommend you watch this video. I didn't anticipate a special forces action. I thought it would be more the classic assassination type of thing that the CIA has done for decades in Latin America that we're all well aware of. But this is what happened. So, what does this mean? Again, watch the prediction video on oil. It's important to fully understand the background. If you missed the video, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss this video. I'm only going to say this once. We have a lot to talk about, and this is urgent. So, this is clearly a step by the US government to take control of the commodity assets of Venezuela, especially oil. As I talked about in my prediction video when we talked about Venezuela, this is extremely bullish for the major American oil companies who had been working on Venezuelan oil fields before the whole oil industry was nationalized. Now, there are 2 schools of thought here. The first school of thought here is the US gonna take over Venezuelan oil assets. They're gonna bring in the American big oil companies, and that is basically Trump's thank you to the oil lobby to being okay with lower oil prices in 2025 and 2026 and probably 2027 in order to keep inflation low. Again, if you think, what are we talking about here? I talked about it in prediction video. When you talk about oil, you talk about powerful forces of the top 1% of the real super rich rulers of this world. There are things happening that on the macro level, it's like not even the macro level, it's like the macro of the macro level. So, and my thesis had been in the prediction video that seizing the rich oil deposits in Venezuela and basically handing them over to the big American oil companies was Trump's way to appease the oil lobby, because he wants lower oil prices in the US to keep inflation low, to keep the voters happy. And that seems like exactly that's going to happen. So the one school of thought says, okay, now the US is going to flood the world with Venezuelan oil, and because of it, the oil price is going to collapse. The other school of thought is, and this is the one that I subscribe to, is that this was basically a deal on the highest of high levels for the American oil industry, and they're not going to flood the markets with Venezuelan oil because they'll shoot themselves in the foot. Something else will happen, and that is that it'll strengthen the American oil industry. They're going to increase their reserves, and it's going to increase the control of the oil market by the US. The US, as you know, is already the highest oil exporter in the world. It's not the Saudis anymore. It's not the Middle East anymore. It's the US. You take off the shadow supply of Venezuela. You take that off the market. You control the assets in Venezuela. You strengthen your control of the oil market. So, will there be a full-blown invasion in Venezuela by the US? I don't think so. I said this before. I think an invasion would be highly costly of American soldier lives on the infantry side, because you have all these gangs and warlords that are armed to their teeth. Can it defeat the US? Absolutely not, especially with drone technology in today's world. But they can inflict heavy losses on the infantry. So that cannot be in the interest of Trump, who's actually not a war president. That's why this is very unusual, what we saw right now. And this is the reason why I am of the belief that this is one of those really highest level of world ruling, you can't say it any other way, that we're seeing right now. So I think they're going to just try to install a pro-American government or pro-West government that they, with a puppet president, that they can basically then pull the strings and get the control of the oil fields. And probably as a nice side effect, they'll also then take back all the Venezuelan illegal immigrants that Trump is going to ship back to Venezuela then. And that's going to make him look really good in the polls. So what does that mean for the oil price? We don't know yet. We will see. But what we do know is we know who the winner is going to be. And that's the big American oil companies. Let me show you the charts of the stocks. And if you follow this channel, then you know that I have been bullish on the big American oil companies and have recommended buying them since the fall, since I changed my outlook on oil from neutral negative to bullish and said buy up the American oil companies, and some of them look great. This was the first thing, by the way, that I knew something was up. The oil stocks, the prices of the American oil stocks went up way higher than other oil stocks on Friday, even though the oil price was down. I was like, why is this happening? Is this maybe year beginning positioning, smart money? It was smart money, all right. It was the smartest of the smart money that obviously knew that something was coming. And they're getting ahead of it. But we can still get in on this development very early. That's why we have this emergency video. So let's start off with 3 stocks that I really like. And we're going to start off with ConocoPhillips. As you can see, it has broken the 2024 downtrend. It's in a bottoming formation, and it does not look as strong as the other 2 that I'm going to show you, but this one we get in really early. What I do like is we already broke that short-term downtrend. We haven't made a new high yet, which gives us the chance that we might get a small pullback and then go up. But we broke the short-term downtrend and we are right at the midterm downtrend. So this is our signal. This is why I like this. So we're clearly in a bottoming phase. And I would like to point out this. Look at this chart of ConocoPhillips. Look at April and the April lows right here. And look at the lows in November, December, which were significantly higher than in April. Now, we're going to take a look at the oil price. And we see April low, and in November, December, we tested these lows again. This did not happen in the chart of ConocoPhillips. This clearly shows us that we have relative strength in the US oil, big oil companies. I've been talking about this forever, literally for months, and it's the same thing all the time. But I do know that the people that have watched this channel longer are way smarter and get it by now. The oil videos, they didn't get any views. Nobody cared in the fall and in the winter. I'm pretty sure by second quarter, third quarter, the oil video is going to be all the rage here on the channel. It always happens when you try to find trends early. So this is the chart. Oops, sorry, that's Canadian. Here we go. ConocoPhillips. As you can see, April low, higher low, relative strength. So this clearly shows us we're in a bottoming formation here. What is the buy setup? Either weakness to me, or we break this midterm downtrend, right? And then we have the 1, 2, 3 signal. Again, 1 was the short-term downtrend that got broken at the end of the year. 2 would be the midterm downtrend. 3 would be the resistance zone. Next one that I really like, Devon Energy. That's more of a Canadian play, but look at this chart. Beautiful base. Very similar setup. Very similar setup to Conoco. 2022 downtrend broken, check. New long-term uptrend since in 2025, since the April lows, check. Bottoming formation, check. This looks great, and we are attacking the resistance zone now. We tried to break through it in December, couldn't do it. Now we're starting again to attack it. This is a stock I told you in my last oil update before the prediction video. Buy Devon Energy on weakness. You could have gotten a great entry point in the sell-off in December. Now we're moving up. This one is moving in the right direction. And like all these big North American, but especially the US oil stocks, if they break this resistance zone and confirm it, nobody's invested yet. There's going to be a bull run through a tiny door to get in on these stocks. And you know what that means? That usually means price explosion. Now, explosion with the big oil doesn't mean what you're used to with crypto or big tech or the mining companies, but it'll be substantial gains. The third stock that I really like, Exxon Mobil. We've talked about this forever. Do not tell me if you're not invested, you don't want to invest in Exxon Mobil. Okay? I've talked about this stock since it broke out of the diamond formation to the upside, and I said there's a major move to the upside coming if you have a breakout out of a diamond formation. Diamond formations are rare, as you can see, because they're a combination of higher highs and lower lows, and then it switches to lower highs and higher lows, and that leads to this diamond formation that, to be quite honest, I drew out pretty terrible, but who cares about my Picasso drawings? The message is what's important. And as you can see, the break to the upside is playing out beautifully. Look at the strength. Look at the strength that Exxon Mobil, right? The oil boring Exxon Mobil just made a new high in this uptrend. It doesn't get more bullish than that. That's why this one looks the best out of all of them. And why is that? Because Exxon Mobil is or used to be in Venezuela. They'll very likely get some licenses, very, very likely, when the redistribution of the Venezuelan oil is coming for the big American oil companies. So they are attacking this resistance zone. As you remember, ConocoPhillips, Devon, they're basically still below it, Well, Exxon is already in the process, as you can see, of attacking it. Once it breaks through it, it's all-time highs for Exxon. It is blue sky potential. This one looks fantastic. I personally would expand my Exxon long positions on weakness any time. So these are the trades on the long side that we want to do. On Monday, we're going to talk about a very important trade in the oil market that is closely correlated to what's happening in Venezuela. But I want to have more information of what's going to develop. If things are developing the way I think they will, which is never certain with politics, global politics on this level, but we'll see. Then I'll be right. The US oil companies will get the control of the oil fields in Venezuela. This is what I think will happen. This is why long US big oil is the play, which also means, well, we'll talk about that on Monday. That's it for today. That was a nice cliffhanger that I left there for you for the Monday video. You'll really like the Monday video. I'm going to have 2 really interesting points on this, but this is the first one. This is the first one. This is the most important one. This is the easy money one. The other 2, okay, this is where you need to think 3 steps ahead, which we're doing here at Hot Trades of the Day. And again, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button by now. I wish you a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye.